People who had considered themselves incels, involuntary celibates, but have since had sex. How do you feel looking back at your previous self? I suppose I was an incel from 23 to 27 after leaving the military. I was depressed, underweight, socially isolated. I never got fat or super into gaming as is stereotypical. Just worked a lot, hung out with my dog, smoked way too much weed, and just sort of forgot how to interact with women, which was probably for the best. Most of my relationships prior to 23 were unhealthy at worst, meaningless at best. Ending that era of my life was a long struggle that took concerted effort towards trying to be more positive and social. One big event was buying and learning to ride a motorcycle at 27. Sort of shocked me out of my routine. Opened my eyes to the fact that life was not a downhill slide from the adrenaline-filled days of 18 to 22, that new experiences were waiting to be had. Eventually I met a woman that I just couldn't bear to have the usual flirt until I awkwardly distanced myself experience with. I forced myself to not to my mind wander when we talked. I powered through all anxiety to call and text her daily. I even eventually would do crazy stuff like get dressed up nice and go to dinner with her, not something I could have ever seen myself doing at one point. So I'm married now, still have some issues, but very happy. So I'd say nothing to me. Just gotta live through it, kid. I used to be the creepy-ass weirdo who, by the time I graduated, had asked every single girl out. I literally had no idea what I was doing wrong. I was practicing all the classic Southern gentleman things that I was supposed to, yet having no luck. Think m'lady, but only slightly less cringy. It wasn't until I got to college and went on a period of self-discovery that I knew the error of my ways. The first, and most important, concept that I learned was that women aren't sex dispensaries that you deposit nice coins into and get puss in return. They have to choose you. I still kept doing nice things for girls because that's the way I was raised. But I removed my expectations for getting anything in return. The second concept was making myself attractive, and it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. A nice basic buzzcut suddenly turned my oily mop of hair into a clean, presentable style. Went clean shaven on facial hair too, because all I could grow was a piddly, pubic hair looking ass beard. Got a benzoyl peroxide solution to start working on the acne. Marching band was my form of exercise to stay fit and avoid the freshman 15. It's amazing how the problems we create for ourselves can get in our own way. I remember when I first found the incel community. It was actually a pretty helpful place. It was more of a support group for people who were unattractive, socially awkward, etc. There wasn't any of this nice guy, give sex bullshit. Everyone knew why they were involuntarily celibate, and just wanted to vent frustrations and get support. It was really good for my confidence. Then the toxic masculinity started to creep in and took right over. As everyone knows, I fell on the incel line of being not unattractive, but personality-wise, all I did was play video games. I didn't have anything interesting about my life, and so women just weren't interested in me. And I never put myself into situations to meet people. New job with great people. I started to do different things. Played hockey for the first time at 30. Joined the group for a couple of traveling tournaments where we got absolutely Vegas type plastered for weekends in different cities. Job is very much a hangout and chat type job. Security. So talking with the women on the team on the regular starts removing the air of mystique I had built around them. Got my motorcycle license, and did a solo trip across the states from Canada to the Mexican border and back that same year. Started doing Tough Mudders, buying a season pass and traveling to any of the ones I could drive to. Then I got Tinder and just started going on dates. Had a few good, few bad, and then met my wife. All in all, I ultimately blame a World of Warcraft addiction that held me back in my early 20s to my late 20s and just missed out on those socially formative years. Oh God. High school me wore fedoras and believed my superior intellect and science-based social theories were too much for everyone, and that I was really a James Bond type with my knowledge of various fields. Turns out I was gay as fuck, but so deep in the closet my zip code was in Narnia. Not really that smart in anything but too ADHD to focus past basic knowledge of anything, and in a desperate need of a new wardrobe. You know, I don't know if this'll be buried, but I can actually share something valuable here. TLDR. It comes down to a lack of respect and ignorance to self-awareness. I did consider myself mostly an incel. Maybe more of a nice guy. But to my core I believed that girls were only after the chads and douchebags. It was from the ages of 12 to 18. So a lot through my formative years. Here's the mindset. You've never had any awareness of the fact that girls don't indeed chase douchebags, because that's all you've ever looked for. Whenever you see a pretty girl who says she is in a relationship, you immediately assume that her boyfriend is a terrible person. Though, not because he is, but because you yourself assume that you would just be so much better off with her than any other person. You won't see your own flaws, so you'll assume the worst of the guy. The truth is, it comes down to major insecurity issues and a lack of any male relationships. If you don't have male friends, you're going to assume that only the cocky guys get the girls. In reality, they're displaying charisma and confidence, something that is very attractive. Everyone knows this. It's lack of awareness. It's easier to say that you yourself are too short, too ugly, too untalented, etc., than to admit that you have a crappy personality with little to no charisma. You won't find a happy, charming incel. If I could have gone back to myself and say, here's the deal. Girls don't look for one particular thing in a dude. They want someone to be comfortable around. They don't want you to praise them as some higher being. They wanted to be treated with respect. But most importantly, they don't exist to have sex with you. They don't even exist to be your friend. They don't owe you anything. No one does. Just because you like them doesn't mean they have to like you. Don't try to sleep with girls by being their friend. Be grateful that someone sees any quality in your person for them to want to be around you at all. Be grateful that someone wants to be your friend. You are shallow and you only care about looks. You saying it's about personality is all bullshit. That's it. I was a young, angry kid. I'm glad I'm the man I am today. I've had a lot of confidence issues which went away as I grew older. I went through many edgy phases, and it took all of these mistakes to learn them. So I feel empathy for incels because they don't know any better. They don't know just how wrong they are. Because admitting fault and self-improvement takes time and effort. Blaming and hating girls does not. Instead of hating girls, my only wish is that I started on self-improvement sooner. I was involuntarily celibate in that I wanted to have sexual relationships, but never met anyone interested. I didn't put any effort in, so it was kinda my fault. My lifestyle just didn't lend itself to meeting people, so it was hard. When I finally did get out there and start having relationships, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I realized that I had previously felt like an incomplete person because of my inability to connect with anyone, and that was holding me back from other things in life. Like I thought nothing else was worth pursuing because I hadn't properly entered adulthood yet. I kinda wish I just got on with it and pursued my other interests a bit more. I don't know why I had to wait. Maybe it was depression relating to me being lonely. Thinking about it a bit more. I put off dating for a long time because I thought I had to have my life in order first. Which was why I waited until I hit some other life milestones. Once I hit those, I realized I had no excuse and finally started online dating. First one ghosted me, which hit me pretty hard after doing something positive for myself. Second one, we really hit it off. And that's when I turned into a different person. It's worth the effort. What new game release are you looking forward to the most and why? Kerbal Space Program 2. The first game was, and still is, amazing. The mechanics of the game, the way it teaches science while having fun, and its extremely wholesome community is extremely impressive. All of this came from a company not even dedicated to game development. The sequel, developed by a proper game developing company. The developers are truly caring about the game, many of which have spent thousands of hours in the original, building on the successes of the original while also adding a whole new dimension to the game. Amazing graphics, new planets, colonies, and multiplayer. How can one not be excited? Destroy All Humans. Played the shit out of that when I was a kid. Can't wait for the remake. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. The world in that is 1-to-1 scale, and you can visit your house or wherever. Literally any country. The smallest or biggest country ever. Age of Empires 4. AoE was the first computer game I really got into, and I've enjoyed each installment since. AoE 3 and the expansions were a blast. So I've been checking in on news of AoE IV every year so for over a decade. Anyone who had the original hard copy edition of AoE 3 knows that the included pamphlet had a teaser for IV, and that was like 2005-06. Baldur's Gate 3 by Larian Studios. I loved Divinity 2 Original Sin and felt that its systems would work brilliantly for D&D. Turns out I was right, and it'll be the best RPG to come out in years. Edit. Fixing typo. Ghost of Tsushima. Just the setting and how vast and open world it's gonna be gets me excited. I think the fact that they are being historical and avoiding any magic fantasy is refreshing and makes me curious about how the combat dueling system is gonna work. Subscribe, my brothers.